Tim. Thank you for allowing me to present today. Today, we're going to be talking about searching Pinergy. We'll go through the fields, answer any questions you have, and I'll kind of point out some tips along the way. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Oh, you got to enable screen sharing there, Paula. Just give me God mode. Yes. There we go. Thank you. So we'll share there. And okay, everybody should be able to see my screen currently. I'm on the Pinergy search. If you can, just give me a thumbs up so I know we're good, and I'll continue on. Awesome. All right, so we're going to break down, I guess, the layout first when we go to the search. So this is searching Pinergy here. And the layout is such that we have this little number in the upper right-hand corner, 4,739. So that is kept up to date, and it tells me how many results I have based on what I filled in, which is nothing. It's just the default. So the default when you go to Pinergy's search section is single family and everything on the market without an accepted offer. So there's no town selected or anything. So this is the entire database. So in our entire database, single family, on market without an accepted offer, there's 4,739. So this number, again, stays up to date. So if I unselect single family and I select condominium, the system just updates that number and tells me there's 3,013 on the market without an accepted offer. So this number, again, stays up to date. Sometimes it lags behind. For example, if I add in 3 bedrooms, so I go to bedrooms and I type in a 3. So now I'm saying condominium on the market without an accepted offer with at least, well, actually exactly 3 bedrooms. And this number doesn't update. This number won't update until you actually click away from the field, and I mean anywhere away from the field. So if I click over here in an empty space or over here, it'll just update that number. So 615. So what I get in the habit of doing is after I enter in all my criteria, I just click on the word count, which causes this to refresh. So before I actually run the search, just do a check, because there's no point in running a search if you have 0. So I just do a quick check by clicking on the word count to make sure this is actually up to date. So now it says there's 615 condominiums on the market with exactly 3 bedrooms. And to bring up the 615 to actually run this search, you click on the results, or you can click on view results. So the actual number of results, or you can click on view results. It does the same thing. It brings up the results, although there is a hard limit in the system of how many results you can bring up from a search. So it's 500. So yes, I can click on the 615 and it will load up 500 of those and then warn me that it's only showing me 500 out of the 615. So try to keep your searches under 500 and you will be good. You won't miss anything. So that is kind of the layout there. Well, each box, we've got a bunch of boxes. So I'll just throw this out there. You can't move the boxes around. It's a good thought. It'd be awesome if you could. Maybe in the future we'll be able to add that in. But right now the boxes are fixed. What you can do in each box, though, is you can minimize the box. So if you never search by list number and you want to save a little bit of vertical space on your screen, you can hit the little arrow and minimize it. So each box has that capability, although some don't really even save you any space. So it's not that big a deal. But the eraser is kind of a big deal in certain boxes. For example, if I wanted to do a search for single families that are sold, let's say in the last 3 months, I would have to uncheck single, active, uncheck all these and then check sold. So another way to do that is I could hit select all, unselect all, and then check sold. But I think the best way to do it is just to hit the eraser and then hit sold. So that'll save you a click. Clicks add up. You get a couple of years of your life back at the end for all those clicks you saved. So yeah, so that's, I think, the quicker way. Just hit the eraser. So that can come in handy. All right, list number. Our list numbers begin with 7. So if you get a list number and it doesn't begin with 7, it's not from our MLS database. It could be from a different MLS. So I guess let me go over the layout of the MLSs, because it can be really confusing, I think, for new agents, the way this works. But if we're talking like nationwide, there's over 100 different MLS systems. So there's a lot. But when we're talking about MLSPIN, our MLS database is primarily Massachusetts. We have a majority of the listings in Massachusetts are in our database. If I had to throw out a number, and don't quote me on this, probably like 95% of the total MLS listings are in our database. But even in Massachusetts, there's other MLS systems. There's a Cape and Islands, and we do have listings in the Cape and Islands in our database, but not as close to 100% as the Cape and Islands MLS would be for that particular area. And then way west, there's a smaller Berkshire MLS. So that's those are the MLSs I'm aware of outside of MLSPIN's database. And when we talk about New Hampshire, Vermont usually near an MLS, Connecticut uses Smart MLS, Rhode Island uses statewide MLS. So there's all these MLSs. We're primarily Massachusetts. We do have listings you'll find from other states, although it tends to be more a situation, I think, where there's like an office on the border of Mass and New Hampshire, and let's say they're licensed in both states. So they'll be a member of MLSPIN and let's say Nearin, and when they get a listing, they put them into both MLS systems. So sometimes you'll see that where we have listings from New Hampshire, but not a ton. And you can run the numbers, for example, not to spend too much time on this, but if you do single family on market, and I do, let's say state New Hampshire. So I went down to here and I said state New Hampshire, and I select this shortcut that says all of New Hampshire. Keep in mind, a little tip here, the system only reads selected towns. It doesn't read this, or any of this. It just looks and says, oh, we're searching in all of New Hampshire. So just keep that in mind. So right now we are searching all of New Hampshire, but if I didn't have that in there, it'd be searching the entire database because nothing's in selected towns. So, but anyways, the numbers are 55 single families on the market without an accepted offer in all of New Hampshire in our database. And if we run that in comparison to Mass, which we did just a little while ago, we're looking at, what was the number there? 4,620. If we do Rhode Island, we're looking at 53. So, okay. Well, you're going to see me do a lot on the search. And here's a tip. If you want to clear out the search, kind of like reset the search, start over again, do another search, you just hit search up top. Even though we're on the search section of Pinergy, this will kind of clear everything out, and put it to its default selection, which is single family on the market without an accepted offer. So you'll see me do that a lot. I'll just quickly go up here and hit search, and it kind of resets everything. There is a clear search button, which you think might be better, but no, it's not. If you click it, it prompts you. So that's one click. You hit clear all, and it doesn't even go to the default. So you've got to then fill in single family and then, all your on marks. So don't use that. Somebody thought it was a good idea. Search is probably the best way to do it. So yeah, our list numbers begin with 7. And a list number, I think the way to think about a list number in the MLS is a list number represents a listing agreement on a property. It doesn't necessarily directly represent the property. So what I mean is, like, a listing might be up for sale. So there's a listing agreement and it's got an MLS number, and then it expires, and then another agent puts it in, tries to sell that same property. There's a different MLS number for the same property because it's a new listing agreement. So roughly in the system, a list number, it kind of represents like at least a listing agreement. So I think about it that way. It's probably the easier way to think about it. So our list numbers begin with 7. If you have more than one separated by a comma, you can put in as many as you want, separated by a comma. And before anybody asks me, a space does not matter anywhere in the system that I'm aware of. Like if you put a space here and I click away, the system removes it for me. So it's like fixing it as I go along. If you put 2 spaces, I don't know, 2 spaces, it fixes it. So yeah, you can't mess that up. Comma separating is fine. Now the list number field is almost its own search. It's not really even part of the search, in the sense that it doesn't care about other selections you've made. For example, if these 2 MLS numbers are condos and I have single family selected and I hit view results, the 2 condos come up. Like, it doesn't go further. It's like, you have the MLS number, you know exactly what you want to bring up. That's what we're going to bring up for you. This is the only field that doesn't care about other selections you've made. So when I run any other search, it looks at everything I've selected and takes everything into consideration. So property type. You have single, condo, multi-land, commercial, business opportunity, rental, mobile home. Check whatever you want to search. You can check more than one at a time. For single families in the system, we were looking at 4,745 condominiums in the system right now, 3,013 multifamilies, probably not that many multis, 1,246 land, 1,845 commercial, 2,996 business opportunity, 212, and so forth and so on. Rentals should be a lot, 5,880 rentals, and then mobile home, we're looking at 68. So anyway, single family. And let me talk about the statuses. Now, we do have a separate webinar that we present.
Hey Ray, it's Sophia. Sorry if I'm making this whole process very confusing. But I did send you an email. I think the original way actually makes more sense. I resubmitted my unemployment, excluding the commissions, and it was approved. It wasn't for the full amount, but it did provide the additional 300. So just kind of doing the math, it looks like part-time, as long as we're not getting commissions or bonuses, we should be all set.
There you go.
I know Ryan brought it to, I think, your attention as well, that, you know, if we're not getting paid, if we're getting full pay, we're not going to get that $300. And I think for some
I don't
of the
have
staff,
the ability to mute.
it definitely works out a little better than for some others like myself. But yeah, if you want to look at my email, give me a call back if you have any questions. Again, I apologize for making everything a little more confusing. Bye.
Hey, Sophia, if you can just mute, it's open mic on that.
He was like actually making more money on it.
Okay. So getting back to where we were. So statuses. So we have a separate webinar we present on statuses, and it's like 45 minutes and it goes through every status individually, giving examples and answering questions, the live presentation. You can take that at any point, but I don't want to go into the nitty gritty right away. So let me just talk generally about the statuses, and I think this is still pretty good information here. Every status on the left-hand side. So new, active, price change, back on market, extended, reactivated, and contingent. These are collectively referred to as on-market statuses. So by on-market, I mean you can call up and schedule a showing. It's accumulating days on market. So every day a listing's in one of these statuses on the left, it's accumulating days on market. So that's everything on the left. That's absolutely true. Contingent is on market, but it's kind of like a transition status. So if I uncheck contingent, we have on market statuses with no accepted offer. So contingent is on market. You can get a showing. It is accumulating days on market, but there's an accepted offer. So none of these statuses have accepted offer. Contingent means there is an accepted offer, but they're continuing to show it. Maybe you can make a backup offer in case it falls through, but that's what contingent means. It's kind of a transition status where it's sort of still on the market, even though it's got an accepted offer. So it's not selected by default. So when you hit search, the system by default selects everything on market that does not have an accepted offer. So, but if you want to add that in, you can always check contingent. So again, left-hand side, you can get a showing, it accumulates days on market. If you don't select contingent, this is everything on the market without an accepted offer. On the right-hand side, these are the off-market statuses. So let me just clear that out. So these don't accumulate days on market and you can't get a showing. So I guess that's the way to group them, right? If you want details on each individual one and what represents in the system, then I would recommend taking the webinar called What's Your Status? And you can sign up for that. We teach those like on an ongoing basis. But next up, we have list date and off-market time frame. So list date, I don't think you're going to use much, but let me talk briefly about what it means. I'll give you an example. Let's do a search. And I'm going to say to the system, I want to see single families. And I don't care their status. I don't care if they're on market or sold or whatever. I don't care. So I'm going to hit select all. Don't care about the status. So basically every status is fine. And I hear where it says off market, that means let's say I don't even care when it went off the market. So like when it sold, I don't care. When it went under agreement, I don't care when it went off the market. So I clear that out. Off market time frame's empty. But here's what I do care about. I do care about when it was entered into the system. So I can put in a date and say, I want to know if everything entered between 01/01/2021 and 01, was it 31?
Hey, Ray.
21.
I'm sorry I'm making everything confusing.
Oh boy.
No, you're not. It's not. It's all new to all of us. Like, you know, something. I started working at 14.
Hold on.
And I never ever filed for unemployment in my life, never. I've always worked. I would work 2 or 3 jobs. I just never did it, so I have no idea, but what's the deal? What can we help you with?
No, so I kind of did the math of,
Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so we're talking about the list date. So we're searching single family, don't care its status, but cared when it was entered into the system. So 01/01/2021 to 01/31/2021. And let's do like Newton. So I'm going to go over here to the town list and just start typing in Newton so I can find it. And then I can just click on it because that moves it to selected town. So now we're searching in Newton. So all we're caring about is when the listing was posted into the MLS system. So it says there's 42. And this is maybe the reason why you might use list date, because you're trying to maybe run a quick market report. So you're like, okay, 42 listings were entered or posted into the MLS system in January of this year. How about versus last year? what do the numbers look like last year for that same criteria? So if we're talking about last year, there was 48 put into the system. So slightly down as far as the number of listings actually entered in January of this year versus last year. So yeah, so that's list date. And you can put in dates and date ranges many different ways. I just did one date dash another date, but you can do just a year. So I can say 2021. So 517 single families entered in 2021 in Newton. So yeah, you can put just a year, and you can even do like quarters. You can do like Q1 2021. And just as a reminder, at any point for the ways in which you can enter in dates and date ranges, you can hit the little question mark, and it will give you like a ton of examples of all these formats that are acceptable to enter in dates and date ranges. So yeah, we got all that. The little question mark here is definitely useful as well, because if you don't want to take the webinar, what's your status? If you just click the question mark, it kind of gives you a little quick blurb about what the status means in the system. So there's new, there's active, there's price change, back on market, extended, reactivated, all those. So if you want to save time, don't want to take that webinar, you can just kind of go over the help if you need to. All right, that brings me to off market time frame. This you're probably going to use a lot more. And that, let me just reset my search, would be when something went off market. So if I say single family and I erase and hit sold, this tells the system, well, sold when? So this is telling the system how far back to go looking for solds. And I can say 2019 in Newton. So single families sold 2019 in Newton, there was 580. And then I say, well, how about 2020? Did the number go up? Nah, about the same. So far this year, 335. So you're going to use this as a quick market report, or you might use it if you're trying to find comps for a CMA. So I don't know if you guys have done CMAs yet. Stands for comparative market analysis. It's basically a market report you present to a client on specifically their property. So they're educated on the market that exists for their property. It's called a comparative market analysis. So again, it's a presentation for a client or soon to be client, maybe that's looking to sell their house, and it presents them the market that exists for their house. And you determine the market for their house by finding similar properties to theirs. Those are called comps. And when you're trying to find comps, you're usually going to put in a time frame. So you're going to say, I need to find similar properties to theirs that sold recently. So maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months, depends on the market and such. But this is where you would put in that off market time frame. So that's off market time frame. Which brings me to standard search criteria. These are just a collection of fields. The idea here is these are the fields that agents use the most when searching. So bedrooms, yes, bathrooms, rooms, acreage, living area, price per square foot, year built, parking, garage, and parking spaces, non-garage. I don't know if many people search by price per square foot, but that's there. I don't know why. The other ones like parking, yeah, towards the city, it would matter. Bedrooms, absolutely. Living area, yeah. So I'll make a mistake because it's probably better to point out a mistake here because otherwise it's pretty straightforward. But single family on market, let's say I'm looking in Newton for a client. And the client's got to have at least 4 bedrooms and at least, I don't know, 1,900 square feet. So I entered in 4 bedrooms, I entered in 1,900 square feet, and I click on count and it says 0. So this is a common mistake made by a super new agent. And it's just because what you're entering is exactly what the system's looking for. So I said exactly 4. So fine, but I also said exactly 1,900 square feet. So if the property is 1901 or 1899, it's not going to come back as a result. So I would say, I mean, you can put the number by itself, but I would try to avoid it unless you're specifically doing that for a reason. I think the default probably should be just in your mind, just put a plus after everything, because they're probably not going to care too much if it's got an extra bedroom as long as it was within the price. And I would probably do a plus for the square feet. So then we get 59. So if I'm looking for a single family on the market in Newton with at least 4 bedrooms, more is fine, and at least 1,900 square feet or more, there's 59. So the plus is probably the default. And then in some cases, you might do a range. So I'm looking for something between 3 and 4 and 1,800 to 2,200 square feet. And you might use this, for example, if you're doing that comp search in a CMA. So you're trying to determine the market for a property, you're trying to find similar properties, so something in the ballpark of what your subject property has for features. So you might do a range. So yeah, the dash is acceptable in all these fields. I mean, even year built, 1979 plus. So including 1979 to today, you can do that. You can do a range if you want to do like 1979 to 1990 or something. You can do that. So that works for all these fields. The only field where there's a little bit more to talk about would be bathrooms. If you put in 2 plus, and I say I'm looking for a single family on market in Newton with at least 2 bathrooms or more, the count comes in at 74. But you have not said whether the 2 bathrooms are to be full or half. You haven't told the system that. You just said 2 rooms that are bathrooms or more. So if you want to tell the system that the 2 bathrooms have to be full bathrooms in this case, at least, you would take the 2 plus and change it to 2.0 plus. So adding a 0.0 now tells the system the 2 has to be full. Why it does it, I don't know, but that's the way it works. And we lost a couple, but not many, which isn't a surprise. But yeah, so just remember that. If you need a refresher at any point, little question mark will give you a breakdown of the bathrooms fields and how to use it with even more examples. So you could do like 3.2, 3.2 plus, which means at least 5 total bathrooms with at least 3 full. So all these examples. Parking, when an agent enters a listing, they tell the system how many garage spaces there are. It tells the system how many non-garage spaces there are. And then the system calculates a field called total parking spaces. So this isn't one the agent fills in. We just figure out by adding this plus this. So you can search that field, that calculated field. And I'll give you an example. We can go through this. We can say, I'm looking for a condo in Boston, all of Boston, right? Like I'll narrow it down later, but all of Boston. There's 1,147 condominiums on the market in Boston. And I could say, well, yeah, but it's going to have a parking space. So I don't care if it's a garage or not, just need at least a parking space. So 1 plus here. In which case we go from 1,147 to 722. So we lost a lot. And if you want to go with 2 parking spaces, it more than halves the number again. So even more with the 2. So we'll do 1. All right, so let's say that that's the case. They need at least a parking space. They can spend up to $1 million, let's say $1 million. So when you go to price, you can just type in 1,000. So if you type in 1,000, the system actually assumes you mean $1 million when it comes to condominiums. So if you type in 100, it thinks you mean 100,000. If you type in 1,000, it thinks you mean $1 million. And if you type in 10,000, then it thinks you actually mean 10,000 in that case. But if you type all the zeros in, it wouldn't matter. So if I do 900,000 like that, that should be the same number. Let me just do count as like typing in 900. So there's 337. I never tried this, but this should be the case. 900 should be, yeah, 337. So yeah, anyways, you can save yourself a little time. Just don't type in all the zeros because you don't have to. Anyways, they can spend $1 million. And but here's the thing, it's got to allow pets. So we got to add that in. They're looking for a condo, it's got to allow pets. And there's no field in standard search criteria for pets. So what do? Well, we turn to the next step, which would be additional criteria. So if what you're looking for is not in standard, you just go down here and click on additional, which sends you to the bottom of the search. So it's the same as scrolling to the bottom of the search. It's just a hyperlink, even though it's not blue. So I'll click on it. Brings me to the bottom of the search where it says additional criteria, and then I can start selecting additional criteria. So I'm going to hit select. And don't click on the first field because that's a bunch of filters. Just click here where it says type here to find criteria, and then type in whatever you're looking for. So I'm going to say pet. And it says, okay, there's 2 fields that contain the word pet. There's a field called pet restrictions allow, and there's a field called pets allowed. And I'm like, okay, I got to choose, but let's try to make the better choice here. I'm going to apply a filter. And I'm going to say, only show me the fields that contain pet that are required fields. So by required, I mean when an agent posts a listing, there's certain fields they have to fill in before they're allowed to post, and then certain fields they can fill in, but they don't have to post a listing. I want to know the ones they absolutely have to fill in. They won't be able to post unless they provide this information. That's probably a better field to search on. So I'm going to check required fields, and it says pets allowed is required. And I'm like, that's as far as I'm going to go. So let's click that. And then it says, well, these are the options within that field. Yes, pets are allowed. No, yes with restrictions, unknown, unspecified. And I'm going to say, now there's a couple ways I could do this. I could say only show me the listings where pets allowed is not set to no. And it's like a double negative thing, right? So not set to no. So as long as they didn't specifically say like no pets allowed, show me the listing. And then maybe I got a call to figure it out. But I could do it this way too. I could just say, well, look, only show me the ones that are set to either yes or yes with restrictions. And then I'll hit add. And so now we're down to 251. We didn't lose as many as I thought we would, so that's not too bad. But then they say to you, well, look, I can afford $1 million, but not if the condo fee is over like 400. I know it sounds crazy, but let's just say that's the case, right? So they want the condo fee to be under 400. So again, you just start the procedure. Like condo fee is not under standard. It's not here. I'm going to hit additional. I'm going to say select. And I know it's not actually called condo. I guess you'll learn this with experience. It's called association fee, I think. So I'm going to type in, start typing. I'll just type in fee. And so these are all the fields that contain the word fee. And one of them's association fee. So I'm going to click on that. And then it comes up and leaves me here. So I got to type in what it has to be. So I'm going to say less than 400 and count. And it's 138. So there's our search, like completed. So we're looking again, you got to read all these fields together. We're looking for a condominium that is on the market without an accepted offer. If I wanted on market with, even with an accepted offer, I'd do contingent, but that's not what I want. Up to $1 million that has at least a parking space. It can be a garage or not, but it's got to have at least one parking space. In all of Boston, where pets allowed are set to either yes or yes with restrictions, and the condo fee is under 400. And then I can just click on the results as 138 and they will come up. And then I can double check the fee by, now, when you bring up your results in Pinergy, this is an important area. So remember, this view is telling the system what format you want to view your list of results in, because that helps save time. You could click on the MLS number to get all the details of anything in the list. Just click on the MLS number to kind of zoom in and see everything. But sometimes you just want to keep your list and just look at specific information, in which case I'd recommend either the one line or the photo summary is pretty good, photo summary view, because this will show you a lot of important fields without having to click on every MLS number. So like, for example, association fees in here, 292. By default, it's in the photo summary. And then I think pets allowed is in here too. Yeah, pets allowed, yes. So we can just kind of go through and make sure that the fee is under, 400, but it should be, because that's what we set up, 392. So, okay. So to get back to the search, you just hit edit search here, this button will bring you back, and you can just kind of continue on. So yeah, so there we go. So that is standard and then additional. But what if we have a situation where, let me just reset my search, the feature we're looking for is not in standard and it's not in additional? Like, what do we do then? Well, there's something we can try out, which is keywords. So that's this order of operations. Standard, it's not there, go to additional, it's not there. You pretty much got to go to keywords and hope, but it's pretty effective. It's not as bad as it may sound at first. When you type in a keyword, what it's searching, and the only thing it's searching, is the list agent's description of the property. So when an agent posts a listing, they describe the property in their own words. It's called the public remarks. And the keywords field here searches just the public remarks for a match. So you can say, and any listing description, if this word is mentioned, then bring it up. So let's give the example where somebody has a client and they're sort of a contractor and or whatever, carpenter. They're looking for what they perceive as a deal. So looking for a property that may need work, and there's no field. Let's say they're looking in, I think I'll just pick on Worcester. So looking in Worcester and single family, and they need a property that needs work because they want to look for a deal. So standard search criteria, there's nothing. So you wouldn't find it there. So you go to additional, and I'll save you time. It's not there either. There's nothing for needs work. There's no field that says needs work. Nothing that even includes you into that fact. Maybe the price would, that'd be a giveaway, maybe, but not necessarily. So keywords, we're just going to type in words that will help us find properties that need work. So what are some words we can type in here. So probably needs work. Let's just do the obvious, right? Needs work. So bring up any listing where in the description, the list agent typed in needs work. And if I click on count, there's 0. So let's do a comma. And if you guys want, give me some words I'll try out, but otherwise I'll just keep going.
Contractor special, no, contractor or contractors.
Yeah, so here we go. So contractor is a good word to find those. But here's the deal. Do you type in contractors or with or without an S? Do you type in special? So I'll answer that one as I ask the only question myself. You want to type in contractor without the S, because the way the system does the search is if contractor is even part of another word, it'll bring it back as a result. So contractor is actually in the word contractors, right? But if you did it vice versa and search by contractors with an S, that's not part of the word contractor. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't fit into the word contractor. So less is definitely more on the keyword search. So just type in contractor and let's see if we get anything on that. Yeah, we got 1, so that worked out pretty well. So it's another one like TLC is another one. That's usually brings up 1, right? There's 1. Investor. Although I don't know if that's really a fixer upper, but maybe that's 3.
I was going to say fixer upper.
Oh yeah, fixer, yeah, right. So fixer. I'll just type in fixer. I don't know how else that could be used, so that might work. Because they might have done fixer upper like this. They might have done it with a space. They might have put the word together. So I'm just going to type in fixer. How else would that be in there? So I think that'll work. Oh, that didn't bring up any, unfortunately. Anything else? Handyman? Nope. Diamond in the rough. Oh, 1 for diamond. So unless diamonds come with the property, it's probably diamond in the rough. And then sweat equity. Now, the one you might want to use too is as is, but you got to be careful. You're going to get a lot of ones you don't want with as is, because it might just be in the sentence structure of the description, not saying that it, is as is. But the problem with as is you got to do as space is, comma, as dash is, comma, as is together in case you put it in any way. And the funny thing is sometimes this will bring up the word oasis, which apparently is a word used to describe properties. I've run into it. So because as is this is part of the word oasis, I believe. So I've run into that. So, but anyways, that brings us from 4 to 8. And let's just take a look at the 8. So it's got to contain one of these. So click on the 8, brings up the 8. And then we just read through the remarks. And the all capitals remarks is almost always an indicator. I don't know. What does this say? Very easy commute. Properties occupied. Do not disturb the occupant. You're buying as is. So there's the as is match. This one says this is a diamond in the rough. So I don't know if that means fixer upper in this case, right? Although 145,000, I don't know. Let me just click real quick. Hold on. So I clicked on the photo. Okay. Oh, I don't know if I use diamond on that one though. Rough, yes. Diamond, I don't know, maybe. Okay, so yeah, that would probably work. And then this one, location. Property needs rehab work. I don't know, rehab we didn't type in, did we? So what else did they mention? Investor. But now we have another word, rehab. So we can do edit search and then add in comma rehab. Oh, that might be, it was already rehabbed or something. So maybe it's not what we want. But anyways, we can just go back and add to it. But here's what I want to do. I don't want to think of these words every time I want to find a property that needs work. I want to save this as my fixer upper search in the future so I can just load it in, plug in a town, and then, whenever I want to run it, I can run it easily and quickly. So I'm going to save this search. I'm just going to really save the keywords. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get rid of the town selection because I don't want to save it with the town filled in. I want to load it and then plug in whatever town I want at that time. So I'm getting rid of the selected towns. I'm keeping all the keywords, and then I'll leave everything else alone. And so once that's set up, you just go over to save in the upper left-hand corner, click on that, type in a name, and then save it. So this would be my fixer upper search, and then save. And so it's saved. So now let's say that, I've logged out, log back in tomorrow. I'm on the search of Pinergy. There's no keywords in here. And I'm like, I've got a client that's looking for property that needs work. I'm going to take my mouse. I'm going to hover over the load option. You don't even have to click if you don't want to. Just hover over load, click on fixer upper search, and then those keywords load in. And then if you think of another word, you can just put a comma, type in the word, and then to update that again, you just hover over save and do quick save, and it will update your fixer upper search with this new keyword. So hover over save and then click on quick save. So this will grow after, grow with time, and you'll get a really effective search to find properties that need work. So yeah, again, that was the order of operations. You want standard search criteria. Let me just minimize that. Standard search criteria. If what you can't find, you go to additional. And then if you can't find it there, you go to keywords. Which brings up the last example where let's say that you're looking for a feature. It's not in standard, so you go to additional. But what if it is in additional criteria? Do you just stop there? And I say, no, if you want to be completely thorough and not miss any property, or better yet, find a property that other agents aren't finding, that's going to benefit your client possibly. Yeah, do the next step. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Let's say that you have a client that's looking for a property that has an in-law or in-law potential, which is tough because of legality reasons, but we still need to find it for the client. So let's say we're looking for that. So you go and you say single family on market. I'm gonna pick on Worcester again because I think they've got some there. So Worcester. And we're looking for in-law or in-law potential. So nothing in standard, obviously. And then additional, well, let's check. So go to additional, hit select, type in-law, see if there's any field that contains in-law. All right, so right off the bat, there's a field called other room name any. Is it a required field? It's good to know. Filter by category, required. Nope, they don't have to fill it in. So we're not going to find everything with an in-law, just the ones where the actual list agent filled in the actual field. They don't have to. When an agent's putting a listing in, they can say like what floor every room's on, the dimensions and features, but they don't have to. So this is not a required field, but we're still going to search by it. So I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to say, bring up any listing where one of the rooms is described as an in-law apartment. So I check there and I hit add. And in Worcester, there is one where the list agent said one of the rooms is an in-law apartment. So, okay, I write down the MLS number, right? Or add it to a cart. So I kind of make a note of it. But don't stop there. Let's move on to keywords and see if we can find something here. So I'm going to say, bring up any listing where the list agent described the property by using the word in-law. So in-law, comma, in-law together, comma, in space law, comma, au pair, comma, teen suite. Anything that maybe we could work with. So I've got a bunch of possibilities in here, but I'm never going to have more than one, because you got to remember this. If you're doing a search in additional criteria and keywords for the same thing you're looking for, they both have to be true. So what this search is kind of flawed, because I'm saying they would have had to said one of the rooms is an in-law. There's only one that said that. And then in addition to having said one of the rooms is an in-law, they would have had to mention it in the description. I only care if they did one or the other. They don't have to do both. So you got to get rid of, if you're going to do a keyword search, get rid of the additional criteria before you do that. So this is an in-law search, X that out there. We only care if they mentioned it in the description, not that they filled in the field as well. Now there's 4. So there we go. We've picked up some, right? I mean, that's beneficial because it's possible other agents wouldn't know to do that sort of search to find additional in-laws. So yeah, I don't know. Let's read these. Open house, in-law apartment. So they say there's an in-law apartment in the description. I'm curious, did they use the actual field for in-law? So if I click on the MLS number to bring up all the details, I can look at the rooms and see if they said one of the rooms is an in-law. They did. So this is the actual listing where they said that one of the rooms is an in-law. So let's go to the other ones. This one says, you guys have probably seen it before I see it, right? What line is it on? Second level house, 2 bedrooms, a bonus room, a full bath, and plenty of storage. So perfect teen suite. So they mentioned teen suite. So if I click on the MLS number, one of the rooms is not described as an in-law apartment. neither is Teen Suite actually officially a room from what I know. So whatever on that one, but they mentioned something, maybe we could work with it. And then this last one they mention right here, this perfect example, this finished lower level, which could make for a great teen suite or in-law level, includes 2 large bedrooms, a full bath and fireplace family room that walks out to the backyard. If I go and click on the MLS number, they did not mention it as one of the rooms. There's no in-law, but they did mention the remarks. So searching by the remarks brought it up. Searching by the actual room names would not have brought it up. So, so yeah, there you go. I mean, that's just something to keep in mind when searching. Sometimes it's good to go to that keyword search to find those straggling listings, the ones that other agents might not be able to find. Yeah, so just a little tip there. Questions so far? All right, let's talk about saving a search, which we already did, but let's talk about saving a search and then having a display on the homepage of Pinergy to save you a lot of time. So let's say I want to set up a search for single, condo, or multifamily properties that are on market without an accepted offer somewhere in Newton. But here's the thing, I only want to see the ones that have, under listing events, an open house or broker tour scheduled in the next 7 days. So that still seems like a lot, doesn't it? Wow, 43, there's a lot of properties. I mean, I don't know what normally there is in Newton, so I take that back, but just, wow, 43. So 43 single condo or multifamily properties that are on the market with a scheduled open house or broker tour in the next 7 days in Newton. I'm going to save this. So I'll just hit save. And I'll say, call this saved search Newton open house. So nothing new here, I'm just saving it. And I can load it later on by hovering over load and clicking Newton open house. But here's where it's different. I'm going to tell the system that I want this specific search to display on the homepage of Pinergy so that whenever I log in, I can one click bring up the open house, scheduled open houses and broker tours in Newton whenever I want. So you just go to the homepage of Pinergy, click on home, find the box that says saved searches. Now, when I say find, you can move these boxes around. You can on the search, you cannot in the search, but you can on the home page. So you can click and drag these boxes around. So I'm not sure where the saved searches box is on your home screen, but it's got to be there because you can't delete the boxes. You can only minimize the boxes, you can't delete. So find saved searches, click on add remove items, and then check next to the saved search that you want to display in that box going forward. And I'm going to say Newton open house is the one I want displayed in this box. I hit save. And there it is. So, you know, you log into Pinergy and you're like, all right, let's see all the open houses in Newton for the next 7 days. One click, up come the results. And when you're looking for open house information, look for the balloon icon below the photo if it's not displaying in the actual text here. So there's a balloon, I can click. There's one Thursday, it's an in-person open house, 6 to 7. There's one Saturday, 12 to 1:30 in person. And there's one Sunday, 12 to 1:30 in person, 3 open houses on that property. Now, this one, if I click on the balloon icon, there's one Sunday, 11 to 12. There could be comments with the open house, but nothing was left here. So now you could tell the system that in the actual photo summary view of your results, your list of results in the photo summary format, you can go to options and say, I want to display the next open house in the text of the photo summary report. So like here, instead of just the balloon below the photo. So you click on options and then you check next open house and see how that appears right there. So this is the next one, not all of them. You can get all the open houses by clicking on this, but here it tells you about the next one. And if you click here, I'm not sure if it'll show you all of them or not. Let's see, if I click here for the next open house, yeah, it doesn't, because this had 3, I thought. So it only brings up the next one. So that's the list agent. I can, you know, email the agent, visit his website, whatever, you've got all that information. But so this one says Thursday. If I close out and click on the balloons below the photo, I think, yeah, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, all right. So that is how you save a search and then display it on the home page. All right, let's talk about towns, town selection, and I'll give you a shortcut for town selection. So normally if you want to search a town, you just go here and you click there and you type in the town you're looking for. So like Newton, there's Newton. And then, you know, I don't know, Cambridge. Type it in, click, there we go. You can save a little bit of time. You can create what's called a custom coverage area so that not, so you don't have to search basically. Like for example, you can go into Pinergy, and we'll do this right now. We'll go to our Pinergy account settings. So in order to go to Pinergy account settings, you go to options and settings in the upper right-hand corner here. And in here, there's a bunch of tabs. And the one that I was talking about right now is custom coverage areas. So you can go to custom coverage areas. Let me just delete the one I have from before. So you can go to custom coverage areas tab. You can click on, I want to create a new custom coverage area under my account. So new, and then just go through this town list and bring from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, let's say the towns you search in most often, or that you maybe want to group together. So I could say, well, when I'm searching, it's usually like Newton, Cambridge, I don't know, wherever. You can just group a bunch of towns together here. So you bring all your towns or areas to the right, and then you go to coverage area name and you just call it whatever you want. I'll call this group of towns my main area, and I'll hit save. So this groups the towns together, gives that group of towns a reference name, and this saves you time on the search. So you can click on search, and instead of having to type in each town like Newton, move it, you type it, move your mouse, click Cambridge, click, and then I don't know, Boston, which is kind of vague, but Boston there. So it's a lot of like, that just takes time. So you can save all that time by just simply saying coverage area, where it says all towns, which means display all towns in this list. You can say only display my main area towns in the list. So click my main area, and then look, Boston, Cambridge, Newton, in one click, out all towns, done. Now I can still add to that. I can still say go back and all towns again, and then just add other towns that weren't in that grouping there. You can still do that, but this is a lot quicker. So what's interesting is how this actually works is that, let me go back. Coverage areas, all towns, state mass, show areas, yes or no. These three fields only determine what's in this pool of towns for you to search through and select. So if I say my main area, and then I type in like Worcester, nothing comes up because Worcester's not in my main area. But what's interesting is if you go down here and type in Worcester, it'll go with add. This box doesn't care about these selections. So anyways, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I would say coverage area is my main area, which is the towns you most often search in. That'll save you a lot of time to just do that. And then when you want to add a town to it that's not in the list, you can just go down here and type it in manually and then hit add. So that could save you some time. Anyways, the default is all towns, mass, and then I would say show areas if you're searching like in Boston where it really matters the areas, right? Or Newton, it probably matters too. So show areas, yes, we'll take a town and then show you the areas below that town. Be careful when searching by area though. You can run into a little bit of a situation with areas, and I'll point it out what I'm talking about. It's, let's say you're looking in Jamaica Plain, Boston, right? So you'd say single family on market, and then you'd type in Boston, but I'm not going to select all of Boston because I have show areas set to yes. So if I scroll down a little bit, I'll find Jamaica Plain. Right there, Jamaica Plain. So I can select that. So it tells me, let's do single, condo, and multi. So single, condo, or multi in Jamaica Plain in an on-market status without an accepted offer, there's 60. But what's interesting is if I get rid of the area field and instead put in the zip code for Jamaica Plain, which I think is 02130, I think that's it. So if I click count now, we get 63. So see the discrepancy? I put in the zip code for Jamaica Plain, I get 63. If I actually go and select Jamaica Plain as the area here, there was only 60. So just what's happening is probably this. Interestingly enough, right? I think you can post a listing into Pinergy, and you have to say what town it's in. So you have to say it's in Boston, obviously. And you have to fill in the zip code. You have to fill in the zip code. It makes you put a zip code in before you can post the listing, but it does not make you select the area of Boston. There's a drop down that says, here's all the areas of Boston, and you can select one, but you don't have to. It's not required. So I've seen agents that put a listing in Boston and they put in the appropriate zip code, but they leave the area field blank. So if you search by the actual area field, it's not going to bring up that listing. Whereas if you put in a zip code, it will. So interesting, just something to think about. You'd think there wouldn't be many of those, but last I checked, there was quite a few. Like if I do a search in Boston right now, let's say Boston, and let's just do like, I don't know, single family or whatever. It's 144. So click on the 144. So let's bring up 144 single families in Boston. I didn't search by area or anything, but if I switch to a one-line view of the results, so where it says view one line, I think I can quickly see if there's an area field filled in, right? Yeah, so see Boston, Mass, and then Roxbury. So they filled in the Roxbury area. They filled in Rosendale, but they didn't fill in anything. So it isn't an area, but they didn't put that area in. So it's possible this won't come up if you search by the area that it's in. So that one didn't. Is there any more? This one didn't. This one didn't. This one didn't. So you see my point, like there's quite a few where the list agent didn't say what area it's in. So if you search by a specific area, it's not going to bring this listing up. You'd have to search all of Boston to bring this listing up, or the zip code that they put in for this listing, which is, for this one is, where's the zip code? 02136, which I don't know where that is, but that's how you'd find it. So, all right, getting back. All right, so we talked about town selection, listing events, keyword searching, all that stuff. We kind of skipped over address. And so let's talk about address a little bit. I've got some good examples, but I got some horrible examples too. So we'll just go with them. Let's use a horrible example first to demonstrate the address fields. And by the way this works is you have a street number field, you have a street name field, you have a zip code field, and then you have radius. A radius ruins things. If you fill in a radius, the meaning of these three fields, like what they mean, is completely changed, and you're not aware of it. So I want to point it out now, but well, not now, we'll get to that, but ignore radius for a moment. Let's say I've got a client and they're looking for a single family property that is on market in, I don't know, they don't even care where. Don't care the town. It's a horrible example, I know. But what they do care about is they want a property that's on a main street. It helps them sleep at night, the traffic. They can always see what's going on. I know it's a crazy example, but they want a property that's on Main Street. So I'm going to say single family on market, and it's got to be on Main Street. So I type in Main Street and I click on count and it says 28. And then I do this. I say, well, what about main ST period? And I type that in, and then it goes to 3. And then I'm like, well, what if I don't put the period and just put ST? And then it goes to 83. So you see these numbers are all over the place. So here's what you need to remember when searching by street name. Don't type in street at all. Don't type in road, avenue, circle. If you can avoid it, leave it out. Because the way the search works is in the street name field, the way I have it right now, is if they typed in Main in any capacity, so North Main, West Main, even Germain Street, because Main's in the word Germain, it will come up. So this is a more thorough search. You might get a few you don't want, but it's probably the best way to search by street name. So yeah, because the street name field, when an agent puts a listing in, is not validated. It's literally a free text field. They could type in STREET. They could miss an E. The system's not going to check. So it's best just to say, look, if the street name field contains Main in any way, bring it back. And that'll bring up the most. That brings up 105. And if I view those 105, we'll see what I was talking about, that Main is somehow in here. It says Main Street, North Main, Main Street, South Main. Is there anything that's actually Main Boulevard, which might not be what you're looking for? Main Dunstable Road's probably not what you're looking for, but there's a couple you're not going to want. 0 Main Street, and on and on and on. So Old Main Road extension. Yeah. All right, so edit search. So just remember that, leave out the street extension, you'll be good. Now you can add to this. You can say Main Street or Central Street or High Street. So you could just do comma separating the street names. So the street's got to be on Main, Central, or High, in which case we go from 105 to 187. Now you could narrow that down and say, well, it's got to be at 100 Main, Central, or High, in which case we go to 0. I could say, well, it could be 100, 101, 102, 103, as long as it's one of those Main, Central, or High, in which case we still get 0. And then I say, well, how about a 0 to 100 Main, Central, or High Street, in which case we get 60. So let me check the chat. So I might have missed something. Oh, somebody's got to run. Okay. So yeah, so you can do that. which brings up zip codes, sort of the same thing. You can put a zip code in. If you don't want to select a town, you can just type in the zip code. You could do multiple zip codes separated by a comma. That's fine as well. Now, radius, let's pretend radius exists here. Now, if you fill in radius, so you say 2 miles. So you're looking for single families that are on the market that are 2 miles, and the system's like 2 miles from where? What's your starting point? That is these 3 fields. So when you fill in a radius, these 3 fields no longer represent where the results have to be. They're where your starting point is. So you need a specific starting point. And the results can be within the radius. So I could say, is it 904 Hartford Turnpike in 01545. You got to use a zip code when doing a radius search. So there's my starting point. 904 Hartford Turnpike 01545. Find me results 2 miles from there. Now you'd be using this, for example, if you're trying to do, again, a CMA, a comp search. You want to find something similar to your client's property that's maybe close by. So you say, find everything within 2 miles from the subject property address. Now, the only thing to keep in mind when doing that sort of search is you said starting from this point, go out 2 miles, but the results can be anywhere as long as they're within the 2 miles. They could be in a different town. So if your starting point is on the edge of town and you say 2 miles, you're going to get results from another town. And you probably almost definitely don't want that in the CMA. You want the results to be in the same town as your subject property in almost all cases. So you would go a step further and say to the system, the results have to be in Shrewsbury, because this tells the system where the results have to be. So then that brings up 6. If I didn't have that, we get 7. So we lost 1. So 1 was not in the zip code, which is Shrewsbury. So a little confusing, I know, but just keep in mind when you fill in radius, this then becomes your starting point, not where your results have to be. This tells the system where the results have to be in that case. So, and you can do miles. You could do like 1.5, like fractions of miles, or half a mile. So there's 3. You could do 1.25. I don't know if that's going to change the number. Not really. 1.75. Okay, maybe not, but it works anyways. So that is the address fields. Now, for a good example, and I've run into this myself, let's say you have a situation where your client was driving by a property, they saw a for sale sign and they're like, oh, that looks perfect. Can you send me over the information? And you're like, oh, okay. You know, what's the address? And they say, I was in Worcester, I was driving by, it was 100 Main Street. And you're like, oh, I'll send you that information. So you go in the system and you're like 100 Main Street and Worcester. So you do this, this is going to happen. Trust me, I do make this mistake all the time. So it's 0, and you're like, huh, that's odd. Well, you know what? I remember, you don't put in street, right? Maybe just they typed in street, ST period or whatever. So I'm going to do main, and then you hit count and you're like 0, and you're like, ugh. So then the next step is, well, get rid of the number. How many properties are on market right now in Worcester on Main Street? There can't be a ton. I'll just look at them all. There's got to be the one that the client's looking for. So I hit delete for the street number. And then you hit count and you're still getting 0, scratching your head going, I cannot find this property. In which case, just check under contingent and under agreement. Maybe it just went to contingent or under agreement and they didn't update the sign, and that's the confusion. So check contingent, check under agreement, then hit count. And okay, maybe it recently sold even. There's 1 there. But that's my point, is that just keep kind of like remembering to add stuff to it. Yeah. So hopefully it's helpful, because a lot of times the agent can't find it because they didn't check contingent or under agreement. So, yeah. All right, so that is the address fields. And so we've covered the property type, status, standard, price, we kind of touched on, address we just covered, selecting a town, open houses, keyword searching, additional criteria. I'm like running out of stuff. So there's a couple of things I do want to wrap up with. And again, any questions, feel free to interrupt me. That's perfectly fine, because we're gonna have time. There's a stats button up top, and it's somewhat new that it was actually added to the top of the search, because it used to be on the results and it was very limited, but now this is pretty useful, the stats, especially as a new agent. This is definitely useful, I think, because you can do stats and hit the stats button. And what this does is it gives you stats on your result number. So you could do something like this, for example. I'll give you 2 examples. You could say single family on the market without an accepted offer in all of Massachusetts. So as a shortcut, you just say all of Massachusetts. And so it says, well, there's 4,629. And I'm like, great, I want stats on those. So I'm going to hit stats. And the big thing is here, how do you want to group your stats? So you're getting stats on those 4,000 plus single families on the market in every town in Massachusetts, but I want them grouped by town. So I want my stats grouped by town, in which case, awesome, we have a list of every town alphabetically in Massachusetts, right? And so if we're looking at like Newton, let's find Newton in here. So if we're looking at Newton, we've got 74 single families on the market currently in Newton. Now the average price of those 74 is about 2.5 million. So interesting, right? And then if we go to something like Cambridge, we're looking at Cambridge, there's 21 on the market and not 2.5, 2.3. So a little bit less on average. You know, we get other stats too, but you can kind of look through and see town by town what how many listings are on the market and what's the average list price. So it's interesting to look at. The other stat you could do is you can go a step further and say, you know what, show me just Cambridge results. So single families on the market. Now we're narrowed down to just one town, Cambridge, in which case there's 21 on the market. And I could say I want stats on the 21. So I want stats on the 21 single families on the market in Cambridge, but I want them broken down by bedrooms. So group by bedrooms. And then I could say, look, if you're looking for a 2-bedroom in Cambridge, there's only one, they're asking about 2 million. But if you want a 3-bedroom, well, that's what most of the listings on the market in Cambridge, that's what they have, 3 bedrooms. And there's 10 of them on the market. And the average is 1.7 million. This is weird, isn't it? This is really weird, because if you want a 3-bedroom, it's 1.7 million. But if you want a 4-bedroom, there's 8 on the market and the average is 1.4. So it doesn't seem like there's not much of a difference, right? For a 3 or 4-bedroom. But now if you want a 5-bedroom, well, now you're talking, because now we're at 8 million, 8.8 million. Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, 8.8. Yeah, this number always messes me up because somebody put in cents, which then causes this to display cents. But yeah, anyways, so interesting, and it doesn't really make much sense here, but I guess it maybe is location based and such. So yeah, check that out. So that's the stats button. All right, if you're a new agent, this would certainly be absolutely helpful. Let me just bring this up. Hot sheet. So if you've never set up a hot sheet, really easy to do. You just go and find the hot sheets box on the homepage and click on create hot sheet. And I recommend this if you're a new agent, but the idea with the hot sheet is this. When you click on a hot sheet, it's only going to show you movement in the market. So the idea is that after a while, if you're always working in Newton, you kind of know what's on the market. And what you want to check maybe every morning and throughout the day is just show me what's moved in Newton, like what's just come on the market, what just had a price change, what just went off the market. So it's kind of a filter, because it doesn't show you the properties that are just sitting there. If they're just sitting there and nothing's happened recently, they will not be in your hot sheet report. So this only tracks movement status-wise when you run it. So I'm going to create a new hot sheet by finding the hot sheets box, clicking on create new hot sheet, and then just filling it in. So really easy. Status, report type is set to hot sheet, so correct. Every status is selected. So I want to know of any status change that occurs when I run this report. So I'm going to leave that alone. And I only want to know if the status change occurred on a single condo multi property when I run it. I only want to know if single condo and multifamily changes status wise. And furthermore, I only want to know if it happened yesterday or today. So I'm going to say time frame yesterday, today. And then I'm going to say Newton. And that's it. So any status change that occurred for a single condo multi where it occurred either yesterday or today for Newton. That's what I want to come up when I run my hot sheet called up here, Newton hot sheet. So I'm gonna give it a name, call it Newton hot sheet. I'm gonna hit save. This will then display on the home page going forward in a special box called hot sheet. So if I go to the home page, find that box called hot sheets right here, and there's Newton hot sheet. So if I click on that, this will be all the movement in Newton for the last 2 days. Up until this point. So actually not too bad, right? A lot of news. That's good. So new, and new just for single family. That's pretty good. That's only in the last either yesterday or today they were posted into the system. But usually when I see new, I look all the way to the right to days on market to see if it's a new, or simply a new relist where you'll see something like days on market 40 or 50 or something like that. That just means that the property is trying to sell before it didn't sell, a new listing agreement, new list number, but it's not a new property to the market, if that makes sense. So new means new listing agreement. It doesn't mean new property to the market. Days on market gives me a better indicator if these are new or new old, as I call them. So anyways, these are all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. So these are really new. Price change, 3 price changes occurred, a bunch of accepted offers. A CTG means accepted offer, but remaining on the market. So these listings have accepted offers, but they're continuing to show. They're also accumulating days on market every day they're in contingent status. Interesting note. Under agreement means accepted offer, not showing it's off the market. They're not accumulating days on market. And then a bunch of solds. One was withdrawn. Now withdrawn means that it's being withdrawn from the market in the sense they're not showing it, but it also means there's still a listing agreement in effect on the property. So it's been withdrawn for whatever the reason, meaning they're just not showing it for the time being. It could be that they've got to fix up something with the property. It could be that the owner of the property has some family coming out, so they're not going to show it for a couple of weeks. So the agent withdraws it to let everybody know temporarily we're not showing it, but there's still a listing agreement, and the intent is to have it back on the market at some point. Although you're not going to know when that is. So that's withdrawn. And then cancel just means a listing agreement was ended abruptly. Maybe the person selling their house they can't get what they want. They're like, you know what, maybe now's not a good time to sell, and they're just kind of ending it. So cancel just means both parties agree that they're terminating the listing agreement early. That's canceled. So yeah, that's just single family. Now, if we're talking condominiums, 3 new condominiums came on the market. Those are new. A bunch of price changes, contingent agreements sold. And then for multifamilies, we have 1 new multifamily that came on the market yesterday, 411 Parker Street. And they're asking about 1.6 mil. Yeah. So that's a hot sheet. I mean, you can just run it throughout the day. Whenever you click on it, it runs it real time. So anytime I click on Newton hot sheet, it's going to be all of the previous day up until the moment I'm clicking on it today. And so the only thing it doesn't do with it, I would like to see added, and I've kind of put the suggestion in, is that if I ran this in the morning and then I run it in the afternoon and I click on it, it'd be nice to have like a little symbol to represent that these are new since last you ran it, where it doesn't tell you that. It just runs it real time. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so that is the hot sheet. So any questions on anything we've covered so far? Listing Watch is a new feature, somewhat new. We've added texting into the system. So now you as an agent, this is geared towards agents, you can find a listing and say, I want to watch this listing. So there's a little button that says watch. I'll show you that in a moment. But what that does is when the status of that listing that you're watching changes, our system will send you a text message to your phone saying, this listing changed, here's the information, here are your notes on the property. And that's something that if you want to take advantage of, you need to set up. And what I mean by set up is you need to give us your cell phone number and approve it so you can start using the watch feature in the Pinergy system. So to set up the watch feature, if you want to do that, you go to options and settings in the upper right-hand corner here and click options and settings. And you go to the tab that's called Listing Watch Text Alerts. So you'd click on that tab. And then you'd provide us with your mobile phone number. If this is something you want, don't worry, we don't like resell it or anything. So, but if you want to do this, you put in your number and you hit authorize. That triggers a text message to be sent to your phone where you just reply with yes or whatever it's asking for. Then when you do that, this page will refresh saying that it's been authorized, and there'll be a checkbox so you can tell the system that yes, you want text alerts, but you don't want them between like 11 p.m. and I don't know, 5 or 6 in the morning. There's a checkbox that you can turn that feature on and then save it all, and you're all set for the listing watch. So once you set up the listing watch, when you want to actually watch a listing, all you need to do is click on the MLS number. So remember that if you want to watch a listing, you have to click on the MLS number. So let me do a search for single families on market in Newton. And I click on the results, 74 results. And you can't watch from your results page. Your list of results, there's no watch option. You have to remember to click on the MLS number. And when you click on the MLS number, you'll then be presented with that watch option up top. It's right here, watch. So if I want to watch this and I'm watching for any status changes to this listing, where I'll receive a text alert if it happens, I click watch. And now I'm that quickly, that easily watching the listing. If I click watching again, it changes to just watch. Now I've turned it off. So on, watching, off, not watching. In addition, if you're watching a listing, you can go over to the right and click on the little speech bubble and then add in whatever notes you want. And what's going to happen is now if the status changes on the listing, you'll receive a text alert with the listing information and what's changed, but also you'll get your notes. So this will be in the actual text alert. So you can remember why you're watching it. And that's somewhat of a newer feature. So just wanted to kind of point that out. All right, I'm absolutely running out of stuff to talk about. I know we're running out of time too. So, but I guess quick links on the homepage might be useful. So on the homepage of Pinergy, there's a box called quick links, which is helpful, but these are a lot of third-party products. So like, for example, I imagine your Realtor members, if you're a Realtor member, you have access to RPR software. So you can go into quick links here, this box, and say, I want to make sure RPR link appears in the box. So make sure you check RPR. Any of these products, if you use any of these products, you can just check the box, hit save, and then it'll appear in quick links if you want to go to like RPR or Remind or Rate Plug or on any of these third-party sites that are geared towards real estate. But what if you have a link you want to put in here on the homepage of Pinergy that goes to a site you use in real estate, but is not in the quick links? So maybe like a registry of deeds. So you could maybe go there often and you want to create a link on the homepage of Pinergy because it's convenient and everything's in one place for real estate. So you can do that. You just got to find the box called custom quick links. So not quick links, but custom quick links. And then you can just add in whatever hyperlinks you want here that you use day to day in real estate. So I can just click on add remove items and then type in the web address of where I want the link to go and what do I want to call the link. So do I have my example written down here? Because yeah, it's Mass Land Records is like kind of a general website to go to any registry of deeds. So I can just say www.masslandrecords, I think it's with an S. Yeah, .com. So I can just put that in and just say, so I can just say registry of deeds. Oop, I cannot type today. Oop, of deeds. Yeah, I can do that. So call it whatever you want, hit add, and then done. And so there's registry of deeds. So when I log into Pinergy and I'm like, I got to go to the registry of deeds, I can just click on registry of deeds, and there I am. And then I can choose what registry I want to go to specifically in Massachusetts, and it sends me there. So, but there's probably other sites that you use day to day. Maybe they're company sites that aren't in the quick links here. And it's nice to have them all in one place. Like you could bookmark these sites on your browser, but this way, it doesn't matter where you are. If you log into Pinergy, all your real estate links come up. So that could be useful. And that's the custom quick links box. And yeah, so I think we're going to wrap things up, or I'll take questions at this point, or anything you'd like me to cover. So any questions on what we've talked about today? All right. Well, thanks again for allowing me to present. And if you want to have me back to talk about something specific, contacts or market reports or cloud CMA, I'd be more than happy to come back and present on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jason. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.